What's up guys, it's Kelly, and as promised today I am bringing you a huge stamping nail art compilation. So if you guys missed it, I recently did a video where I told you guys everything you need to know about nail stamping. So if you missed it, I'll put it up in the cards, definitely check it out so you learn the basics. But today we're going to be going over a bunch of different techniques. I'm showing you a lot of different designs that I came up with and just showing you all the different ways that stamping can work and be super fun, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So we've got 9 different looks to go over today, all using various techniques. For all of them, I am going to be doing it over the Maniology silicone mat. Mine is very old, so it still says Bundle Monster on it, so that's why my background's a little bit different. And I'm also going to be using the Maniology stampers. I have 2 of them that I use the most, which is the Maniology XL round stamper and then the Maniology mini ice cube stamper. So I'm going to link everything that I'm using down in the description. We're also using tape, but pretty sure you guys probably already have that, so I won't bother linking that. But yeah, let's just get started. So we'll start off simple. Design number 1, I'm going to start off with some base coat. I am using the ORLY Bonder base coat. It doesn't really matter what type of base coat you are using, you just want to make sure that you have one that protects your natural nail, prevents staining, and keeps the manicure lasting. So for this first look, I am going to be using one of my collaboration shades. This is STARRILY Deep Space. What I wanted to show you guys here is that you don't have to necessarily use a cream or a shimmer base for your stamping. You can literally use anything. This is a relatively chunky, multi-chrome, flaky, glittery polish, and stamping works perfectly over it. Just a quick note, like I said, I am going to be linking everything in the description below, and I also have it listed on the side so you guys can see what I'm using. So I am going to stamp with the BMXL 213 plate. This is another one of my collaborations, and I'm going to be using the Maniology Bam White stamping nail polish. So what I'm doing is I am just painting on just as much nail polish as I need. You don't need to cover the whole image. I'm going to scrape that off, make sure that I get the design nice and crisp, and then I am going to go in with that clear stamper. I do like pressing directly down with this type of stamper. You don't have to roll it, and then I just press it directly down on my nails. I only do a slight bit of rolling just to make sure that I cover the full nail with my design, even with the curve. And then I'm going to use some Scotch tape just to clean up my mess. You can always use liquid latex, but I just find this to be a little bit easier and less time consuming when I'm doing this. If you have a giant camera in the way like I do and you can't get to your cuticles, you can always clean it up with acetone and a cleanup brush like I am showing you here. But again, you can use liquid latex if that works, or you can use tape around your nails as well. And then I'm just going to finish off the manicure with the water-based top coat from Maniology. I find that this is my favorite for making sure that the design doesn't smudge. So this is the final look. Like I said, this is a super simple one, easy way to start. Probably my favorite stamping design, so I end up using it pretty much all the time. But yeah, this is just a really great starter way to do stamping. You can do it over any different color or type of base coat. So let's move on to design number 2. Once again, just using my base coat to protect my natural nail, prevent any stains, all that good stuff. You can always use a peel off base if you want to do that as well. And then I'm going to use a black polish for my base color this time. I am using STARRILY Vanta Black. This is another really cool thing. You can stamp over black nail polish. If you're using non-stamping polish, it's always better to stamp with the darker color over the lighter base. But if you're using stamping polish, it should be totally fine to stamp with that. So I'm using the Maniology M90 plate. This is just a cool one with a bunch of, I don't know, really interesting geometric kind of designs. And I'm going to be using the color Starfish, also from Maniology. This is a purple linear holo, which I feel like is pretty cool for a stamping polish, that they actually make holo stamping polishes. So once again, just applying the polish where I need it, swiping it with the little card that I use, the scraper, and then I am just going to pop that onto my nail. And as you can see, the stamping polish covers the black perfectly, and it's really cool. And again, I just peel that off with some tape because I feel like sometimes liquid latex is just too time consuming and I don't feel like waiting for it to dry. But if you guys don't want to go through all of these steps, of course you can always use your liquid latex or wrap tape around your nails. And then once again, just gonna finish off this design with the water-based top coat from Maniology. This is their no smudge top coat, and again, like I said, I just feel like it works really well to keep the nail art design from smudging. I find that it doesn't necessarily work with thicker nail art designs, but with stamping, it is a thin enough layer that it works pretty perfectly. And I love this like holographic look showing through. You can always use a holographic base color and then stamp on with a non-stamping black polish if you want to get a similar look, but just figured I should show you guys the different options that you have here. Moving on to design number 3, once again, we always start off with our base coat, and I always use base coat because, you know, you got to keep the nails nice and protected and you don't want them to get stained. And then I am using the Coconuts over OPI as my base color for this. I'm just going to go in with a couple of coats, and what we're doing for this design is I'd like to show you guys that you don't necessarily need a stamping polish to stamp with. And if you're just getting into stamping and you don't want to invest too much money in getting special products just for that, you don't have to. You can use whatever type of opaque nail polish that you already have. So I'm just using this M91 plate. Honestly, it's not my favorite plate, but I really wanted a kind of swirly design, and they have this like, I don't know, abstract tree swirly looking thing on it. So I am just taking the shade Serene from Believe Beauty. This is actually a dollar store nail polish, but I found it to be really opaque. So I am just applying that onto the stamp, scraping off any excess, and then just popping the stamper on there and just applying it on my nails. And like you can see, this is opaque enough that it actually covers the base color, which is so cool. I actually think that I might have needed a second coat when I was applying this color for full coverage, but as a stamping color, it actually works really well. So it's fun to kind of play around with what colors you already have in your collection and see what stamps well. And again, even with that top coat and using non-stamping polish, it still doesn't smudge, so that's pretty cool. Of course, you always want to wait a minute or two before you apply any top coat, just in case it does still need a little bit of time to dry. But yeah, so you can see you don't necessarily need stamping polishes, although I will say once you try stamping polishes, you might like them better. I am the same way, so it's hard for me to go back. Alright, so now that we've seen a few different ways to do regular stamping, let's get into some more advanced techniques. First, we're going to start off with some double stamping. It's not hard. I am using OPI Danke-Shiny Red as my base color here, just because, I don't know, I wanted something bright and festive, and we're going to keep this nice and simple. Don't worry, it is not hard to do, and it doesn't take any more effort than regular stamping. I'm just going to use this plate, the N16 plate from Maniology again. This is like their birthday one, but they have this really fun little confetti design. So I'm going to start off with the black stamping polish from Maniology. I'm going to apply that onto the stamp that I want to use, scrape it off. You guys know the drill by now probably, but I'm going to repeat it like 18 more times in this video. And then I'm going to apply the stamper, and I'm going to stamp that onto my nails. Now you always want to clean off your stamping plate in between each nail, but in this case we are going to have to clean it off with the same nail. So just using some acetone on the stamping plate and then just peeling off any excess with tape on the stamper. And then I'm going to take this next color, I'm using Maniology Heart of Gold, and I'm going to also apply that over the same stamp, scrape that off, and then I am going to stamp on my stamper. Now, this is the only part where it gets slightly complicated because you do have to line it up nicely, but since it is clear, it is relatively easy to stamp that on. So because I use that black first and then the next color, it kind of looks like there's almost a shadow on the design. So it's giving this like kind of 3D look. This is a really easy way to make stamping a little bit more advanced and make the design look really cool. Of course, there's a lot of cleaning up in between, and if you want cleanup to be even easier, you kind of have to clean up your nail in between each stamp, but still looks super awesome. So that was one type of stamping technique that you can do for double stamping. So let me show you guys a different type of double stamping. This is actually layered stamping, and this is a relatively new thing to me, but I'm totally loving it. So for my base color, I am using a coat of STARRILY Diamond Rain. I wanted this to be like an oceanic kind of design, so I feel like this, I don't know, kind of looks like the ocean, so let's just go with it. I am using using the Maniology MXM008 plate, and this is part of the Maniology and Me subscription box. So this one's actually not available, but they do have similar ones on their website, so I'll link that below. I'm going to use the shade Blue Glue as my first stamping color, and what this plate has is they have the inside of designs, and that's what I have with this shell right here, and then they also have the outside layer of designs. Kind of hard to explain, but I'll show you guys. So starting off with that blue shade, just applying a couple of those little shells, and I feel like they kind of look a little boring on their own, but still pretty cute. I just feel like I want them to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to take the Bam White, which is another stamping polish, and then on the other side of the plate, they have the outline of those same shells in the same sizes, which is so cool. Sometimes stamping plates have multiple different layers for one design. Sometimes you just have 2 layers like this, sometimes you have 3 or even 4, and it's just really fun to use different colors to layer the design over and over again, basically just applying the second stamp over the first stamp and lining it up so that it matches, and it almost creates this, like, it looks like you colored it in. Of course, it's not perfect, and like I said, this is relatively new to me, so I don't have it exactly down just yet, but for this being like my 3rd try ever doing this type of manicure, I feel like it looks pretty cool, and it also, I don't know, it kind of looks like I hand drew it, which I feel like is fun. So it's always fun to work with those layered stamping plates and just kind of do designs, but make them look like they're not stamped, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but yeah, just a really cool way to work with that double stamping technique. Alright, so let's move on to the next technique. I've already told you guys that you can use any base that you want for your stamping nail art. You can even do a gradient base, but I'm actually going to show you guys an even better trick here, and that is gradient stamping. So for this one, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to use a white base coat. I'm using OPI Alpine Snow for this one because it is a 1-coater for me. I know I still owe you guys a video on my favorite white nail polishes. That is coming soon, I promise. But yeah, so this is just what I am using today, and then I'm going to just use whatever stamping plate works for me. I'm using the M25 plate, and this one has like some weird fractal galaxy types of designs on it. A lot of different cool ideas. This one's messy because I didn't clean it so well. But yeah, so I'm actually going to take 3 different stamping polishes that I think work well together. I'm using a blue, a purple, and a pink, and then I'm just going to really quickly work on the stamping plate. This one does take up a little bit more nail polish than usual, so there is a little bit of waste, but I feel like it's kind of worth it because it looks really cool to do the gradient. So just applying kind of a line of the 3 designs, then scraping it off a couple of times until they start to blend together, and then that actually creates a gradient design on your nails. So I absolutely love that. This stamp was absolutely not perfect. Like I said, I didn't clean this plate very well, so you can see there are some mistakes in the design, but just to show you guys that you can actually do gradients without having to worry about doing a whole gradient on your nails. Now that I'm looking at it, I feel like the purple and the pink were so similar in color that it's kind of hard to tell them apart, so maybe this wasn't the best example to show you guys, but pretty cool that you can create gradients on your nails without actually doing sponge gradients. Alright, so let's talk a little bit more about advanced stamping. I told you guys that I am absolutely not an expert at advanced stamping, which is basically when you color in the design and then stamp it onto your nails, but this is one kind of trick that you can do that I think works well. I am going to use STARRILY Galaxy Gang as my base for this because why not? It's a really gorgeous color and I love it. And then I'm going to show you guys a little trick. Now this doesn't always work with any type of polish. It really only works if you're using a sheer polish to color in with, but I still think it's a pretty good way to start getting yourself used to the advanced stamping technique. Again, I'm just going to use my collaboration plate on this because I really wanted to use those pretty clouds and I thought that would be the perfect look. And plus I found this stamping polish called Lilac Clouds, which I feel like, I don't know, was a sign that I absolutely needed to do it. So just going to apply some of that, stamp that onto my nails with my clear stamper. And I know this doesn't seem like advanced stamping so far because I'm just stamping it on like regular, but what I'm actually going to do after, of course, I gotta do a little bit of cleanup because that will bother me otherwise. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a sheer polish. This time I am using the Holo Taco Aurora Unicorn Skin, and this is just an iridescent flaky topper. I'm going to gonna put a little bit out onto my silicone mat, and then I'm going to take a tiny nail art brush. This one is from Nail Stuff, and they do like customize your brushes, which I think is really cool. But yeah, I'm just going to take some of that, and I'm actually gonna color in the clouds. So this is sped up because I feel like this would have taken a really long time to walk you guys through, but you can see that I'm actually coloring in the design, and I don't have to worry about messing up the edges because, like I said, this is a sheer polish, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Now, one thing is with my camera, you couldn't really tell too much that there was the little flakies on there, but I promise you guys, in person, this looked so cool. Like, it looked like I had done advanced stamping and stamped on the clouds with that color already in it, which I think is so fun. And you can really do this with any type of sheer polish without worrying about ruining those lines from your stamp, but just another fun way to kind of cheat the stamping system and have a really cool design. And again, just going to use the smudge-free top coat just to seal in that design. This one did get a little bit thick just because I am painting on another color on there. So the no smudge top coat is very thin because it is water-based. So if you're doing something like this, you probably need to throw on a regular glossy top coat once it's done, just to kind of really smooth out the design, because I don't know if you can tell, but it is a little bit bulgy in some areas, as that happens with nail art, not necessarily with stamping, but with techniques like this where you mix stamping and just regular painting on. Alright, so now that we've learned to cheat advanced stamping, let's actually give it a try. There are two different ways to do it. I'm going to show you guys both of them. This is the first method, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, this one did not go very well for me. I told you I'm not an expert in advanced stamping, but I thought I would show you guys anyway, just so you can kind of see how it goes. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my base color and I'm actually only applying it to a portion of my nails because I am going to stamp on a little stripe. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to use striping tape or anything unless that's something you really want to do. I'm not sure if I told you guys, but I am using OPI I Believe in Manicures for this. But yeah, like I said, doesn't have to be perfect because we're just going to stamp over it, and your stamp is going to be a nice clear line, so you don't have to worry about making this a perfect line. So I'm using the M53 plate. We're going to do a couple of different techniques for this same look. I'm going to start off with one of those straight lines, and I'm going to use the shade Snowdrift, which is a nice kind of coppery color, and I'm just going to fill that in, scrape that off as you do, and then I am going to pop that onto my stamper, and I'm going to stamp that onto my nails. So the first issue with this was that the base color that I used was a little bit too thick, so it didn't work out too well, but I'm just going to clean off my plate. Then I'm going to take these straight up black, and I'm using one of these really pretty, just like random geometric designs here, and I'm going to stamp that onto my stamper, but I'm not going to stamp that immediately onto my nails. I'm going to take that same nail art brush that I used before because it's nice and thin. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in any areas of that stamping design that I did with the black because I want it to be absolutely perfect, and since we're doing advanced stamping anyway, I can afford to do this. And then I am going to fill it in with some white. Well, first I'm actually going to peel off any excess bits, but then I'm going to take my white and I'm going to just fill in that little square area. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just make sure you are inside the lines, but this is going to be the bottom of your design, so it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, you just don't want to go outside of the line. Once that's dry, I'm going to apply some of that no smudge top coat, and I'm actually applying that onto the stamper. I'm going to let it dry fully, which took about 10-15 minutes, and I feel like it still wasn't fully dry, but then I peeled that up and then I applied that onto my nail. Here's where I kind of struggled because I could not figure out how to get this thing to stick onto my nail. So if you guys are better at this than me, kudos to you because this is a struggle for me. So once I found out where I wanted it, I just kind of pressed that down. I popped off the little excess bits just by kind of picking it off with my nail, and then I applied my top coat. So definitely far from perfect, but this is the first technique that I learned for advanced stamping and it didn't work so well for me, but actually you guys recommended to me a different technique, which I'm going to show you guys next, that worked a lot better. So just wanted to show you guys the different options that you can do. Again, just going to use that top coat just to get that design looking nice and even, but again, I just feel like it wasn't perfect. It was a little bit sloppy for me, and I feel like it was a little uneven with that base color being just a little bit too thick. So one technique, of course, you can do is to have a slightly sticky base that you're applying the advanced stamping on, but let me show you guys this technique that I found to be even easier, and let me tell you, I was freaking out when I realized that it worked perfectly for me. Once again, we're just gonna use our base coat to protect our natural nail. And don't worry, this is the last time you're gonna hear that today. And then I'm going in with my base color. I'm using OPI Summer Lovin' Having a Blast because I was frustrated at this point. I was going to do a gradient for you guys, but I wasn't sure if this was gonna work, and I didn't want to take all the time to do a gradient if it didn't work with the advanced stamping technique. So I'm gonna take the M16 plate from Maniology. This is just like a fun, I don't know, like kind of nerdy video game thing, and one side does have that layered stamping technique. So I'm gonna use that half, and I'm going to start off with the straight up black. I'm gonna use one of these little speech bubble cloud things, and then I'm going to scrape that off and apply that onto my stamper. But again, we're not gonna stamp that directly onto my nails. I'm just going to clean up any excess bits with some Scotch tape so that I'm only working with that one bit of design. And then once again, I just felt like that design wasn't absolutely perfect, so I wanted to fill that in with the black just to make sure that it had some nice clean lines without any little bits poking out. And then I'm going to use the white and I'm going to fill in that speech bubble. So I ended up using a slightly bigger brush just because I was getting impatient for this part, but then I realized that there are small little crevices that I needed to fill in, so I went back to that small brush again. So here's the trick. I am going to use peel off base coat. This is the UNT peel off base, and I'm going to apply that to my dry nail, and I'm going to let that dry. But what it does is it creates this almost tackiness that you can take the stamper with the dry advanced design on it and stamp it on, and it actually stays on your nails. This blew my mind. You guys told me this in the comments of my last stamping video, and oh my gosh, you guys changed my life. This is amazing. So just to finish off the design, I'm just going to take one of these little phrases and I'm going to stamp that onto my nail. It wasn't perfect because I didn't peel off any of the excess little bits there, but I still think this turned out really cool, and I am definitely going to be getting into more advanced stamping because this was so fun. So if you guys want to see a video on more advanced stamping compilation types of things, let me know in the comments. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this. 9 different designs and 9 different techniques for doing stamping nail art. Let me know in the comments below what you think, which design is your favorite. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Please consider subscribing. We have a lot of fun here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!